Good afternoon all. My name is Renee Reagan and I'm a career advisor with ASU Career Services. Thank you all for coming to Job Search Strategies, Navigating Your Path to Success. Today, we're going to be reviewing best practices as you begin or continue your search for a job or internship. So let's get started with an opening question. What kinds of jobs or internship are you looking for? And this is open to anyone in the group, so feel free to answer. Don't be bashful. Heavens no. What kinds of jobs or internships is anyone looking for right now? Does that mean no one's looking? You just need ideas. That's fine. So it's really important to think about a job versus an internship, developing a search plan, searching effectively, and what not to do, especially. And then we have resources that we'd like to provide to you as a part of Career Services. So that's our agenda for today. And why don't we dive right in? Job versus internship. What is the difference? A job really is an opportunity that you specifically applied for because you have the ability to perform the responsibilities and probably require minimal supervision. An internship, however, is a learning experience, and you're gaining meaningful guidance and direction to build skills that you do not possess. Supervision and guided reflection is a big part of the internship. Developing a search plan. Many of us have the challenge of where do I begin? So one of the things we encourage you to do is start with identifying your options. What is it that I specifically want to find out more about? Or what industries do I want to probe? What particular fields am I interested in? So lay those out for yourself. And then create a plan of how you're going to go about doing that. Am I going to use AI? Am I going to use references like Dun & Bradstreet? What resources am I going to draw from? My network, etc. All of those are part of creating a plan on how to approach your options. Searching effectively is a big part of this process because you really want to make sure that you're maximizing your time in your research. So that's why laying out where you plan to look and how you plan to look makes your search more effective. The fourth and most important step after identifying your options is to keep track of your applications. So we have an online resource to help you to do that in Career Services, but it's really important to track who you have reached out to, whether it be an organization or an individual in your network. And so you can determine where you are at the end of a week or even a month. So when we think about this question of where should I work and what are my options, you should consider what are the things you value in the workplace and in the environment. And we all have work preferences. And one of our online resources is a self-assessment that allows you to do that. But it really is important to determine, do I want to work in an extremely fast-paced environment? Do I want to work in a moderate one? Do I need time for reflection, or am I very, very effective when I go about tasks and complete them in an orderly manner? What are your work preferences? So identifying your options really is about identifying an industry, a focus area, and specific titles that you may be interested in. The type of work that is to be performed in those roles, the type of organization, location, where do I want to live? What kind of flexibility do I need? Compensation and benefits are very important to us all and need to be evaluated as well. Culture fit, and that is a term that is used very commonly, but one that I think speaks to this where do I belong question and what's most important in terms of work environment for me. Do you need regular feedback? Do you need to have your ideas discussed at length and then decisions made? Do you prefer to communicate in person or through Zoom and email and other electronic formats? And then schedule. What kind of schedule do you need? What other commitments do you have? Do you prefer working day or night? And do you need flexibility around classes and other priorities? So you really have to consider what else is important to you, because that is unique to you as the individual. Not everyone will have the same priorities. So while it's a difficult place to start, it's the most important place to start. And these are a few aspects that can help you move in that direction of identifying your options. What skills are your strengths? We often look at our opportunities to develop and grow, and that's fantastic. But when you're considering a role, whether it be an internship or in a position full-time, you actually are looking at your strengths and the things that you already do well. So it's very important that employers hire people who are career ready. And what career ready means is that a candidate and an ASU graduate has experience in one of the 8 career areas that NACE has defined for us: communication, the ability to communicate clearly, collaboration, teamwork, professionalism, critical thinking, career and self-development, leadership, equity and inclusion, and finally, technology. So in any of these areas, we all possess strengths. We may possess strengths in one or more area, but it's important for you to identify which of these you possess and are strong in, so that you can communicate that in an interview. Job Market Insights is a wonderful online resource that's available on our career resources site. And many find it very, very useful because once you actually get into the tool, you can put a specific job title or a specific industry into it and then filter it by location and come up with a generic job description, which then leads you to employers who are hiring for those kinds of skills in a particular geographic region. It offers salary information, it offers growth trends, and it also gives you some insight into what technical and non-technical competencies you need to address in your resume for those types of roles. So if you have not already, please scan this QR code and begin to explore Job Market Insights. It's an excellent resource. So now we're into step 2, and that's create your plan. The best way to go about that is organizing your application materials, setting a consistent goal, and creating a timeline. So am I going to put 4 hours a week into my job search or 10? What days of the week am I going to perform this search? that needs to be calendared along with your classes and everything else that you have commitments for. So make a commitment to your job search. And then take those actionable steps to achieve those goals. Make sure you guard that time. That time is important for you to keep your momentum going and tracking your activity as well, which we'll mention again later. Preparing the application materials is really straightforward. Do you have a resume that's up to date and accurate? Have you developed a generic cover letter? When we submit those materials for review, oftentimes employers, after interviewing or even before, ask for references. 3 to 5 is a good number. You should probably lean toward having more professional references and one that is non-professional. But those are important. They need to be people that know you well, not casually, but well, because you've worked with them either in a work environment or in a class project, in a club, but they know you well and they can talk about you fluidly. So before applying to a job or internship, make sure that these things are identified and ready to go. Set a realistic goal. So how much time am I going to dedicate to search? How many jobs can I apply to in a week? And how long will each job application take? So nowadays, employers are, in some cases, deciding who should apply after they've reviewed their resume. So they don't ask you to complete their application initially. They ask you to submit the resume and the cover letter. So while you may find that a very streamlined approach that can get you through the job search faster and can get you applying to more jobs than not, you really need to make sure you're applying to organizations and for roles that you really want. So the days of applying to 200 jobs really, I think, has changed. And it's changed because of the internet, and it's changed because of employers looking for customization of your application materials. Customizing your resume tailored to the role that you are applying for. So when we think about goals, this is a very good acronym to use in a variety of situations. Most importantly, to keep you motivated in your search. It's called SMART. The S stands for specific, the M for measurable, the A for actionable, the R for relevant, and the T for timely. So when we think about getting focused and staying focused in our job search, being SMART means ensuring your statement is clear and you have a clear purpose, both in your resume and obviously in any subsequent interviews. The M for measurable is all about tracking. It's all about recording what you have done in your search. The A is about your action. Have I followed up with this employer? Have I reached out to this individual a second time? All of those things are actionable events. And then align your goal with your interests. All too often, we may, again, apply for positions that we really don't have an interest for and that aren't aligned with our work preferences. Try to avoid that. And then finally, include a specific timeline for yourself and a table so that you can stay on track. Here are some other searching tips. I like to check Handshake weekly, and I'm not looking for employment, but I do encourage students to do that. Jobs are being posted every day on Handshake, and it's a good practice to check daily. You can submit as many as 3 applications a day or as little as 3 a week. The frequency, as I've mentioned before, depends on your needs and how tailored the roles are to your interests. I also think it's useful to review company career pages. And some companies post on LinkedIn and on Indeed. And they have a number of interesting topics on their own website to look and review. So if you're following a company in LinkedIn, for example, you get those updates. But if you're not, you might consider doing so for those companies you have a strong interest in. And then revisit your goals as needed and adjust them. You may do some research and find that of the 20 organizations you hope to target, you really only want 15 of those because you've done the research on 5 and they don't seem like a good fit. That's important. Adjust your plan accordingly. We're in step 3 now, which is all about searching. And the internet has done amazing things for all of us. But organization websites are the first place to look. Handshake, LinkedIn, and any social media can be helpful as well. Glassdoor is an excellent place to go for individual reviews of companies and feedback on employers and the things that other applicants have found in applying for or working for those organizations. And then informational interviews. These are a great way to gain an insight into a particular organization without it being a formal interview. Informational interviews can be obtained through LinkedIn by messaging people who are in roles that are of interest to you, or certainly going through your network and asking for a referral to a particular company that is of interest to you. The self-assessment I mentioned earlier is Pathway U, and again, that can be found on the Career Services website, but it's an excellent place for you to identify those strengths if you haven't given it much thought. What are my preferences in terms of the workplace? What are my interests? What are my values? Those are all things that we need to be fairly certain about as we approach our job search. I think reading the job description is probably the most important thing you can do as you are in the search mode. It's really important to focus on the qualifications and requirements of the position and to make sure that you meet at least the minimum qualifications. I would not recommend you apply for a position where you do not meet the minimum qualifications. But very often employers write desired skills or preferred skills in a job description. And those are useful to review. I would say the first 5 or so are very, very important. But that does not mean that if you don't meet all of those, that you should not apply. So don't disqualify yourself prematurely. Preferred skills or desired skills certainly may be a part of your repertoire. So again, even if you don't have all of them, having some of them makes you a good candidate. Always follow application instructions. And I say this because I know of people who actually disqualified themselves because they did not follow application instructions. And in their haste to get applications out, they did not read or misread some of the instructions that were given to them. And employers actually rely on that orientation to detail quite a bit, and it allows them to screen their applicant pool. So all applications are a little bit different. And again, as I said earlier, some may require a resume and cover letter, and others just want a resume. Some of you will have to answer online questions in addition to a resume and cover letter. And some will prompt you to create an account on their website after you have submitted your resume and cover letter. Regardless, make sure that you read thoroughly the instructions in the posting so that you follow the instructions and upload correct materials. So I mentioned earlier, we're going to talk about the things you want to avoid. And these are things that are ineffective. And I'll share with you a little bit on each of those. There was a time in the job market where more was better. And it was all about sending out mass applications so that magically there would be some that would actually pass through and that you would interview for. The internet and ATS has changed that. So ATS, the applicant tracking scanner that most employers use to streamline their application process, really is hunting for the keywords in the resume. It's hunting for the very job-related skills and experience that you bring. Someone told me not too long ago that they had sent out 1,000 resumes over the last year. And I thought, my gosh, you couldn't possibly be interested in 1,000 opportunities. And more so, did you tailor your resume to those 1,000 opportunities? Very important to be preferential and to exercise good judgment in terms of where to apply. Sending a generic resume means that you haven't tailored it to the job description. Again, focusing on the requirements and qualification section. Generic resumes are becoming all too common also because of AI. People are allowing AI to write, in many cases, their resume. And when it's submitted to an employer, they can tell that resumes are beginning to look alike. And so immediately that is a red flag for the employer, given that it shows that no effort on your part's been made to customize your resume. Not including a cover letter. You know, the debate rages on as to how many of them get read, but when an employer gives you the option, and I like to take the option. I like to take the option to highlight my background, to explain why the organization is of interest to me, and what skills I bring to the table. Forgetting to save a job description can also be an obstacle when you're sending mass resumes. Why would it be important to save the job description? Does anybody know? No takers on that one, huh? So what if I come back and say, I'd like to interview you? And you got an interview in 2 days. And you don't have the job description because you applied for the position 3 weeks ago. Oh boy. So save that job description. Not following up with the employer is also an ineffective strategy. Why? Because employers probably have more than just the vacancy that you were being considered for in their pool of work. So it's really important to allow a good 10 to 15 business days to lapse after you submitted your application, and then follow up with the employer. Should you follow up with all of them? Well, I like to focus on the ones that I am most attracted to and most interested in, because my follow-up email is going to show my commitment and interest to that employer. Limiting yourself to certain keywords. As I mentioned, the ATS scans for keywords in your resume that are linked to the job description. And I think it's really important to make sure that your resume still lends a certain amount of authenticity to it, so that it's not just a collection of keywords, and certainly never a collection of things that you've never done. So we want to stay authentic and accurate in our resume, and we want to certainly use some of the keywords that are contained in the job description, but you need not use them all. How do you know what the keywords are? You put it into AI. and ask AI in this job description to find the keywords. And then you can make a judgment about which ones you wish to use and tweak your resume accordingly. Only searching and applying online. 85% of opportunities are filled through network. 85. So when you turn your search over to the job boards, you have essentially given yourself a very hard task. We recommend that you begin networking in your freshman year. Begin identifying people who are like-minded and connecting with them and doing work with them, volunteering with them. It's really important to develop a professional network and start early. Because if you wait until your final year and then start to look for a network because you need a job, that comes across in your communication with people. Okay? So we want to really start honing in on our career interests from the very beginning. Finally, many people only spend time searching and applying for jobs online because they think it's the easiest thing to do. It's becoming the most difficult thing to do. Again, networking is important. The final step, keeping track of applications, my favorite. You can really see what progress you have made in your search journey by keeping track of where you've applied. Tracking your progress is just as easy as taking a picture of this QR code, and you will immediately receive a tracker that you can use. So please go ahead and scan that now if you haven't already. But it's important to remember your goals. At the top of the spreadsheet, there are 2 questions. How often will you search for job opportunities? And how many opportunities will you pursue each week? Really important to quantify it. You don't need to answer that question right now, but it's important to think about what's realistic given your schedule and other time commitments. You certainly want to track job boards that you're looking on. And the way to do that is to set up alerts so that you know when an appropriate opening may be posted. And it's useful to, again, check into Handshake and any industry-specific websites. But this tracking device should help you plan what organizations to target and to determine when you need to follow up with them. You can also maintain a record of your professional organizations that you are interested in and visit their websites. I do recommend that you join a professional organization sometime in your junior year. I think it's important to leverage your ability to stay current in your industry and to increase the number of networking contacts you have. So it's important to keep track of applications you submit, knowing when you followed up with them and what the disposition was. And it's really a good idea to save that job description because 3 weeks could pass and by golly, you've got an interview with that employer. It's also helpful to identify a contact and note when the job posting closes so that you can follow up if needed. We suggest only following up on an application if 3 weeks has passed again since you applied. So tracking your progress can be very important, not only to keeping you in tune with your search, but also on track with the organizations you're most interested in. Again, feel free to take a picture of this QR code. Resources. Well, we've got plenty of those at Career Services, and I'd like to make sure that you have an opportunity to tap into them. So if 85% of jobs are getting filled through networking, that means that up to 50% of hires in the United States are through referrals. So those who receive referrals are more likely to read a resume and to land an interview and ultimately get an offer. Connecting with employers on LinkedIn. LinkedIn is a wonderful tool and contains over 1 billion, that's B, members. All you need to do is select people or view all employees when you put in the name of the organization in the search field. And then you can adjust filters as needed. You can select connect or message to message individuals in that organization. Well, what do you say in a message? Well, it's important to introduce yourself and why you actually want to connect with the individual. So that means you've taken time to review their profile thoroughly. And you know that they can be helpful to you in giving you information about a particular role or even the organization itself. And you are in an exploratory mode. And that should be very clearly communicated to the individual you're wanting to connect with. Handshake, as I mentioned, is one of our resources, and you can search for and select employers there as well. And you can follow an employer for updates. And you can connect with employers by viewing their profile. I don't know if you realize it, but we have ASU graduates who are in Handshake and are actually recruiters or hiring managers. Yeah, that's right. ASU graduates that are in hiring manager roles or recruiting roles to be found in Handshake under employers. Amazing resources there, in addition to jobs, internships, etc. Pathway U, as I mentioned, is a career exploration assessment. There are many out there, but I think this one really helps you identify through your values, your interests, work preferences, what types of fields you may be best suited for, and then gives you alternate job titles and career profiles. It also provides a job posting list, which feeds from a variety of sites, including LinkedIn. So you can actually see actual postings of jobs that may be a good fit for you to apply to. Informational interviews. Now, these I found to be the most useful to me because you get to spend 15 to 20 minutes with someone who is in a career field that you are interested in learning more about. And you know what the great thing is about these informational interviews is that people love to talk about themselves. So if you give them an opportunity for 15 or 20 minutes to talk about themselves, you'll find you may even go over that 20 minutes because everyone enjoys helping another person gain a good perspective. And if they like their career and are satisfied with their current role and employer, well, you'll have them talking for quite a while. But you receive firsthand information. You may even hear about new opportunities that are coming down the path that you should be on the watch for. And you expand your network. So really important to have those informational interviews. So the QR code for ASU alumni who have lifetime access to a variety of career resources and tools is here. And to get started, just go ahead and scan that QR code rather. And finally, make an appointment in Handshake with a career advisor if you want some one-to-one attention on career exploration, interviewing, networking, or a review of your resume and cover letter materials. I'd like to thank you all for your attention. I appreciate it. And if you would take a moment to complete this quick survey, we would appreciate that as well. What questions can I answer?